New Mexico just recently adopted that, and I've visited with the state trooper in charge of CID for the state of New Mexico, and he said they're doing nothing now. They're doing nothing. It's an open corridor through the state of New Mexico. Any tips, excuse me, any tips or vehicles that are suspicious, whether they think it may be drugs or money, they refer to either Arizona or Texas, but they're not doing anything. And I don't believe that's what the senator wants. I believe the senator is sincere in maybe what he's trying to do. I would choose to believe. I hope that he honestly doesn't understand that law enforcement is out there doing a job. We're limiting the amount of drugs that are put out in this, not only this state but this country. When we stop a vehicle on I-40, often as not, they're going out of state to other states because a lot of my deputies are commissioned federally. We've done controlled deliveries, wound up busting people in Kansas, Missouri, and in effort to go to the source, to get the drug pusher, to get the distributor, to get the assets and put a stop to the drug traffic. Drugs are killing our nation. I'll tell you how they're doing that. They're killing our youth, and the youth is the future of our nation. And drugs are killing them. I see it day in and day out. I don't know how many parents go to the senator's office, but I have parents that have either lost kids to overdose or have kids in my jail. I could tell you story after story after story where kids have gotten on drugs and they might as well throw their life in the trash can, because without a good support system from God, without a good support system from the family, without a good support system from counselors, they don't get off these drugs. Drugs are killing our nation. And we're out there on a daily basis, a lot of times through the night, taking these drugs and these assets, the cartel's money off the highway, and we're using it to fight the cartels with. And I don't know that we'll ever beat the war on drugs, if we'll ever be able to win it, but we're certainly keeping it in check where it's not getting as bad as what it would without law enforcement. So we're out there doing our job, folks. We're not trying to victimize any innocent people. We're not victimizing any innocent people. If you look in the handout I turned out, in the back of that handout, there's 3 senators there that have either had indictments, had charges levied against them, or have been put to prison. And does that make all the senators bad? No, that doesn't make all the senators bad. Does it make the legislature bad? No, it doesn't make the legislature bad. The senator last week gave me the impression, as well as I felt like he gave y'all the impression, that because of a few abuse cases across this nation, and very few, very few, that law enforcement in this whole program is bad. And he quotes the Constitution and our forefathers. You know what? My office is a constitutional office, and our forefathers were fundamentalists and constitutionalists, and I might add they were Christians too. They wasn't Muslims; they were Christians. And this, as I told one girl in here last week, after meeting in a meeting like we had in here last week, and all the events that have taken place lately and have taken place in the last year, and yes, Ferguson being one of them, I feel like my profession, law enforcement, I feel like this country's going to hell in a handbasket. The things that we have always felt dear and close and near to, that we've always been taught, and yes, law enforcement being good is one of them. This country's given up. We're turning on. We're watching it on a daily basis. People turning on our law enforcement. I saw it in here last week. People turning on God and Christianity. This is a Christian nation. In spite of what others would say, or it being politically correct to accept all religions, yeah, we can accept all religions, and you can worship any religion you want to in this country, but don't force it on America. Our forefathers were Christians, and our forefathers never intended to take the Lord out of our government. Nor did our forefathers ever intend on taking and turning the people on law enforcement that's operating within the guidelines and the perimeters of the Constitution. We've got to have law enforcement. The values that we hold near and dear, I would just like to see us start getting back to some of those values today. And if you don't like the government, don't hold it against this country or this government. Vote the people out that are operating it in a way that you don't agree with. I mean, I said in a couple of meetings this last week, I won't ever fear my Father's hand, and I won't ever fear my government, and I won't ever fear law enforcement. Those are three things that we hold near and dear, or always have in this country. And it sickens me to think that any of you would look at law enforcement and believe that we're something other than protectors of your constitutional rights and protectors of your life and liberty and property. That's what law enforcement is. The pamphlet, I'm not going to go through all the pamphlet. There's last year's statistics from Canadian County is listed right there on all of our forfeitures. There's talking points and statements from the district attorney in Canadian County, Mike Fields. There's talking points and statements from Mr. Prater's office, the DA in Oklahoma County. I can tell you that the DA Council has tried to talk to Senator Lovelace. I can tell you that the DA Council's against this asset forfeiture program. I can tell you that the DAs are. I can tell you that law enforcement, the Oklahoma Sheriff's Association, the director of the Oklahoma Sheriff's and Peace Officers Association sitting right there, he'll tell you, law enforcement, your officials, the people you've put in place to protect you, we're all against this asset forfeiture bill, and we're here to help y'all. We're not here to hurt you or violate any of your constitutional rights. I want to introduce a man that I am very proud to have on board with me, and he and I are partners in running Canadian County Sheriff's Office, and he feels as strongly about this bill as what I do. He feels as strongly about the negative impact it's having on law enforcement from some of the disparaging comments that Senator Lovelace is saying publicly and in the media. This is Chris West. I love him to death. He's my right hand, right arm, and I'm going to have him speak to you just a little while, and then we'll be glad to answer any questions that y'all might have. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. I really don't want to stand behind this podium, but I know the media's got some the recording devices here. But I want to tell you a little bit about myself first. I'm from Yukon. I grew up over there, graduated from high school in 1980. I'm a veteran, spent 3 years in active duty in the Marines. Got on the highway patrol. I remember when I was a kid growing up seeing the Smokey the Bears out there, and I was always impressed with them. And, I'd gotten out of the military. My wife and I were up at a pizza joint. 3 troopers walked in, and I told her, I said, that's what I'm going to do for sure. So I spent 28 years with the highway patrol. Had the good fortune of being the captain over this troop. I had 7 counties, Troop A. Oklahoma County was one of them, about 90 people altogether. So I had troopers that were out there involved in these types of activities, making drug interdictions. Was the spokesman for the Department of Public Safety on 3 different occasions, as a trooper, as a lieutenant, and as a captain. And of course, with each different level that I went back, I had different levels of authority and responsibility. So I handled a lot of controversial issues when I was the captain over it on a statewide basis. And during my time on the patrol, how many of you are police officers or ever have been? Okay, there's not a whole lot. I want to bring this up because I want you to understand the relevance of this topic that we're talking about. Since I left the highway patrol, I've been at the sheriff's office for 2.5 years. So I got about 31 years of law enforcement. The average police officer, trooper, deputy sheriff, whatever the case may be, doesn't encounter this topic every day that they're at work. Does that make sense? This isn't something that on every traffic stop they're seizing people's property, that they're seizing criminals' property. In all of my time as a law enforcement man, I seized property other than maybe a can of Budweiser beer or a bottle of alcohol or a bag of marijuana. Okay, if we're talking about that, but as far as taking somebody's assets, it was $19,000, and it was on I-40 right over here between Meridian and Portland. And I'm going to tell you about that stop. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was going eastbound on I-40, and I was coming up on it was a large 4-door sedan. And as I was coming up behind it, it's pretty lit up out here on I-40. This is probably around the early 90s. There was a long-haired person that was driving this vehicle, and there was another long-haired person on the passenger side. And I thought it was 2 females, but as I got close and looked, I realized that the driver was a man. And he was doing this to the female and yelling and screaming at her to the point that I was concerned for her personal safety, and I think all of y'all would have been too. So I hit the lights, pulled him over. And the guy had a fur coat on that went around his neck down to his ankles. And he was acting very strange, had behavior that I would associate with somebody that was on drugs. And got to visiting with him, got to visiting with her. She told me that she was a prostitute and that he was her pimp. And he was accusing her of taking some of the money and hiding it. He was making verbal threats to her. So my suspicion was accurate, that he was angry with her and she was afraid. So I pulled over and checked on her personal welfare. As I went back to the guy to get him up, there was a 35 millimeter film canister. Does everybody know what those are? The little plastic film canisters. Normally they were clear, they were black and had a little lid on it. And I saw it kind of moving away from him because he had just gotten rid of it. And I opened it up and there was a rock of crack cocaine. Anybody ever heard of rock cocaine? Crack cocaine? Well,